Imagine being stuck in the epicenter of a pandemic while managing a private practice, family life, and developing two new businesses all at the same time. Sounds stressful, right? Well, add contracting COVID 19 to this mix, and you've got one tough island girl who endured it all and found a way to come out on the brighter side of things while being there for those around her. I chat with Dr. Zonya Mitchell, an island girl and a New Yorker, who is telling us what it was like from the inside of all this and sharing hopeful advice on how we can all come out on the brighter side of things. Hi, Zonya.
Hello.
Welcome to Island Girls Rock. I guess I should have called you by your official name, Dr. Zonya Mitchell. We're so happy that you're joining us tonight to talk about how it is as a woman thriving and surviving through these times right now. So tell us, how have you been doing during these somewhat uncertain times?
Actually, even though it's been rough all around me, I find that within my profession, and I think the ability to pivot has helped me to have actually an awesome summer and so far a good fall. In business, obviously, for a person who's a neuropsychologist, booms when there's stress. And so, with the boredom of not being able to go out, I've also been able to focus on business and creating new businesses within the pandemic.
So I would suppose that being a neuropsychologist right now and residing where you do in New York, that's kind of a good thing for you because you perhaps know how to handle it better and those around you. Tell us what it's been like in your environment and how it's affected you personally, regardless of your career.
Well, I mean, there have been lots of people around me, including myself, that got COVID,
Okay.
which is scary, especially when you got it early on, like we did, because New York really was the epicenter of the pandemic in the beginning. So early March, people in New York started really coming down with COVID, and somewhere mid-March, both my husband and I got COVID, but and we did have a few deaths in the family, but for the most part, most of the people that we know that had COVID survived. So
Okay.
we're out of the woods now. And so, we're just focusing, especially for me, on keeping everybody else safe. In my job, I have completely turned everything in my office around. I have
Okay.
plastic partitions and face shields and masks and sanitizing sprays for everything. So that's really the focus here in New York for me and for everybody else.
Okay. So were you able to guide those around you on a psychological level, on a mental level, through this during this particular time, especially with the deaths and whatnot?
Yeah, I think a lot of people began to panic.
Yeah.
People got extremely stressed out by being isolated. It's never easy when you're experiencing death and you can't gather. Even funerals were pretty much impossible
Yeah.
during that time. And I think that people called me a lot for advice. And I think it's been an interesting time because this is the first time psychologists would be going through the same thing as all of their patients and
Yes.
everyone else around them. So
Yeah.
as you experience it, as you're experiencing it, you're also learning to cope
Yeah.
while everyone else is learning to cope. And one of the things that I thought was very helpful was to shut off the news.
Yeah.
Shut down, shut down social media if you have to, because what it was doing was creating hysteria. I mean, we all had to be careful, but just an influx of people dying, sick, was making people a lot more panicky than they needed to be.
Yeah.
Reminding people that to be careful, but also to find ways to, even though we were distant physically, to be
Yeah.
together socially.
Yeah.
There were times where we stood in front of people's windows because we have high rises here. So we would still be like 12 feet away in the street
Yeah.
and spoke to them out the window. It's a little bit more personal than Zoom or a telephone call.
Yeah.
Standing in doorways, talking to people, but reaching out, getting outside in parks and even
Yeah.
having socially distanced picnics. So these are the kinds of things that I was encouraging, as
Yeah.
well as adapting your environment. A lot of people moved from where they were living because it just wasn't, including my husband and I, because it
Yeah.
just though it worked for us before COVID, not having outdoor space and maybe
Yeah.
being in a small apartment just was not working for us during COVID.
And speaking of that, I found that creativity has really boomed during this time. People have been, it's nothing like when people are under pressure or they're enclosed and they have to find a way to keep their brain percolating. And I've learned that you also were touched by that in some way. Something, a new business, a new entrepreneurial spirit boomed from this COVID season. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's true what you said about the creativity, because my husband, who's a music producer, was locked in his studio a lot during this time, making music more than he's done before and even now.
Right.
But what I didn't notice was while he was in there, he had all these candles burning, which he found soothing as well as motivating.
Yeah.
But what I didn't like was the fact that I thought that they were toxic. I didn't know what was in the candles, and they were
Right.
being, he was burning them, almost 8 hours a day.
And inhaling, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought about that, especially since we're going through a time where health is important and your lungs working well was important. And I thought about, how I could create a candle, not only that would be non-toxic for him,
Right.
but also that people could have at home, since they couldn't be in the therapeutic environment,
Yeah.
that they could burn to give themselves the feeling of being within a therapy office. That with aromatherapy aspects that promote the mood that they were looking for, whether it be calm, whether it be motivation, whether it be change.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the candles. What are they made up of? And some of the more popular scents right now.
So I would say they're all what I like to call clean, non-toxic, clean fragrances. Some of them are made of essential oils.
Okay.
They are all vegan. Soy wax. There's a cotton wick, and a lot of our tumblers are glass, so they're reusable,
Okay.
and good for the environment. We have a few. I guess our best seller right now is actually motivation. Maybe that's what people need the most right now.
You think it's the name?
I don't know if it's a name, but the actual scent, which is Mediterranean fig, it's known, and the science has shown that the therapy effects of it is actually motivating. It is inspiring.
Okay.
And so the scent is also really good. So
Yeah.
I think that combination of things has made that a bestseller.
I was going through some of the scents, and when you look at the ingredients, you could literally imagine the smells, because you guys have done such a great job describing the scents that you've put into them. So I feel like once people read the scents that are put into them, it's an automatic seller. So that was pretty, I would say, innovative of you to think of that during this time. What other interesting things have you and your family and friends been getting yourselves involved in to motivate you or keep you in a good space, keep you from falling into depression and whatnot during this time?
We created a COVID bubble.
Oh, what is that?
So a COVID bubble is where you have a select group of friends that are committed to only really pretty much hanging around each other.
Okay.
And that keeps you knowing who you're around.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's only so safe you could be, but
Yeah.
those people, them, they wear masks when they go inside, they wash their hands, they're taking precautions. And so that COVID bubble allows us to hang out with people, be inside at home. We obviously expanded our space and have a backyard so we could entertain, and a deck. Yeah. And in this city, we've been really at restaurants outside with pretty much the same group of people. Yeah. Some of our friends have places out east in the Hamptons, which are beach towns. So yeah, we've been spending time on the beach and then by the pool. Lots of outdoor activities that are coming to an end now because it's getting cold.
Yeah.
But again, because we've been around the same people all summer, we'll probably switch that to dinners.
Okay.
And wineries and other things like that.
I'm a bit curious, and only because you're a doctor. What is your thought on the mask? Like, and not from a negative view, but how frequently should we take breaks? What's your view on it?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I've worked in hospitals for most of my career. I've only been in private practice now for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And masks is something that have always been worn in the hospital to protect both patients and practitioners.
Yeah.
You would not see a doctor doing surgery on you without a mask.
Yeah.
Whenever you are compromised, immunocompromised, your nurses would walk in with masks. But even when I worked in health centers, for those people who were allergic to the flu shot, they would wear a mask all day in order to protect vulnerable patients from coming
Right.
in. There's nothing about the mask that has ever been shown to be problematic or
Okay.
toxic to anyone. As a
Okay.
matter of fact, it's only been shown to be helpful. So I think that there's no problem with the mask wearing in terms of the mask itself. I think just for us psychologically, it doesn't feel free.
In terms of getting into psychology, what was the inspiration behind that? Was it a particular person in your life, or was it an interest? Was it a who or a what that inspired you to get into neuropsychology?
I think it was more of a what, because I didn't want to be a psychologist. I wanted to be a lawyer.
So
And
how did that happen?
I thought that psychology would be a good undergrad degree before law, because then I would get a better understanding of people, would make me, I think a better jury picker.
Okay.
Um, but there were circumstances and that happened in my life that made me understand that in order to be a lawyer, at least where I was living in the Bahamas, where the practice of law is limited,
Yeah.
that you were either going to have to put people in jail who you knew were innocent,
Yeah.
or that you were going to have to get people out at some point
Yeah.
that possibly could be guilty. But
Right.
when I came to the States and started my undergrad degree in psychology, not only did I find that I liked it, but I went to an HBCU. So everyone that was teaching me were Black psychologists. They were all doctors, and they were all more than just professors. They were all encouraging me and saying, "You're really good at this. You should really see this through,
Yeah.
because this is a breeze for you." Like, this is
But I imagine that law would have been a breeze for you as well.
but I think that if it weren't for the circumstances at that time, I probably would have continued with law.
With law. Yeah.
But now that I'm a neuropsychologist, part of my plan is to, when I'm ready to retire, to maybe go back and study law and then become a civil rights lawyer.
Okay.
So I could join prison reform and push for civil rights,
So
more than I have time to right now.
okay, good. So you have social media for both of your platforms, for your psychology platform and for your business platform. Let us know what platforms we can find both of them on and the purpose for each one, especially the one in psychology.
Well, I actually, I didn't mention this, but during the pandemic, I also started a group private practice for psychotherapy for people of color, called the
Okay.
Mind Doctors Collaborative,
Okay.
where the whole point of this is to bring on other psychologists to provide teletherapy to people who need it.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter where those psychologists live, even though you can only provide to people in your state where you're licensed.
Right.
But this provides a platform where people of color know that they can come and find someone that looks like them and that might understand them culturally. And that's the Mind Docs on Instagram.
Okay.
I have my own personal Instagram page where I also talk a lot about psychological and neuropsychological stuff mixed
Okay.
in with my personal pursuits, at Dr. Zonya Mitchell.
Okay.
And then the therapy candles, which is expanding from just candles to lotions, soaps, room sprays. We're just making it a lifestyle, and that's at Therapy Candles Co.
Okay. We want to thank you so much for spending time with us here on Island Girls Rock today. We feel that your story is substantial to those watching and tuning in that are looking for inspiration right now, as well as to show people that during a time of confinement or during a time of crisis, there's something always good that you could get out of it to try and seek the best way forward for you. So we thank you for lending, your experiences and your advice. And we're just happy that you joined us. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, thank you for having me, and thank you for reminding me that Island Girls Rock.